We are here to write about a table for this video. IELTS Academic Writing Task 1, one table. In this video, we'll analyse the table, review the method and structure, review the marking criteria, and look at a sample, of course. Here comes the task. We'll start with the instructions. They're here in the box. The table shows the percentage of spending by 5 different countries on 3 product groups. 5 different countries, 3 product groups. There's no year given, so I can presume this is current or maybe recent data. And here is our table. Pause the video now if you want to have a look on your own. Otherwise, let's keep going. We'll analyse and plan it together. So following our method, step 1 is analyse and plan. You should spend 3 minutes on this. Steps 2 and 3, 15 minutes to write following the structure and with the criteria in your mind. 2 minutes at the end to check your work. Let's analyse and plan. Now, dealing with tables can be a little bit daunting because they're less visual than a line graph or a bar chart. You can't see the ups and downs or the big differences and small differences the way that you can when you're dealing with one of those charts. However, the same principles apply. So when we look at our graph, the first thing that we're thinking about is it a snapshot or is it change over time? So when we were looking at line graphs, we were dealing with change over time language. Remember, we were talking about the ups and the downs and the position of the elements. When we were looking at some of the other tasks, we were dealing with a snapshot. So in that case, we're looking at the biggest differences. What was the highest? What was the smallest? That kind of thing. So when we look at this table, is it a snapshot or is it change over time? There are no dates here. Clearly, this is a snapshot. So it's showing us the countries. So 5 countries: Ireland, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Turkey. And then 3 categories: food, drink, tobacco, clothing and footwear, leisure and education. And then the numbers in here tell me the percentage of spending. So what percentage of Ireland's money went on food, drink and tobacco was 28.9%. So much less of their money, only 6.43%, went on clothing and footwear, even less on leisure and education. The next question is, what did each country spend the most on? So we're always interested in those top things, the biggest things, the highest things. So if we look at these 5 countries, what did each country spend the most on? So then throw your eye across to the right and look for those biggest numbers. So for Ireland, clearly it's food, drink and tobacco. And in fact, for all 5 countries, this category accounted for the most spending. So 28, 16, 18, 15, 32%. Much higher figures than these over here. So when we're looking across this way, this category was the biggest, the highest. What about in terms of each country? Which country spent the most on each section? So now I'm interested in this column, which country was number 1? In this column, which country was number 1? And you will see if you slow down, Turkey had the highest figures for food, drink and tobacco. Clothing and footwear, 9% was the highest amount, and that was from Italy. And Turkey also had the highest figures for the leisure and education sector. We don't really need to worry about who spent the least. That's not a significant factor, but these ones, the biggest amount spent, that is significant. The other thing that we ask with any graph, can we group the information in any logical way? So try to find a way that makes sense to put the information into key features 1 and key features 2. So you may want to group perhaps by countries that have similar trends, or you might want to split the categories and deal with that highest performer, food, drink and tobacco, in one paragraph, clothing and footwear, leisure and education in another paragraph. And then you're going to follow the structure. So intro, overview, key features, and writing, as always, with this criteria in your mind. We'll come back to this checklist in a moment. But let's have a look at the sample. I'll show you the sample, pause the video, and have a look at how I've separated my key features information, and also what have I included in the overview. Pause the video now. So did you notice in the overview I included that information from our analysis earlier? And then for the key features, this first key features paragraph deals exclusively with the content from food, drink, and tobacco. And the second key features paragraph deals with the other two categories. So let's go through our criteria checklist, starting with task achievement. So have I presented a clear overview of the main trends, stages, or differences? Here it is, quite a big one. Overall, it is clear that the highest proportion of money in all 5 nations goes toward food, drink, and tobacco. So this category here. And I'm using present tense because there's no date on this table. So it would be okay to use past tense because clearly the data was collected in the past, but present tense is also good. So the highest proportion goes towards food, drink, and tobacco, though Turkish people have the highest figure. So this is number 1, and within the category, Turks spend the most. In terms of clothing and footwear, now we're over here, Italians are the biggest spenders, while Turks again account for the largest proportion spent on leisure and education, this part here. So exactly the questions that I asked before, this goes into the overview, no details, no percentages. Next one, have I mentioned all the elements? So in this case, we've got those 3 categories of products, and we've also got 5 countries, and you need to make sure that your task mentions them all. So you can see here highlighted in blue, the categories, and in red, the 5 countries. So tick for that one. Have I presented and highlighted each key feature? So this body paragraph deals with food, drink, and tobacco, and points out that almost a third of Turkish people's money goes towards this, just under 29% of Irish people's income, and the fact that the other countries' figures are much lower. So this 4th body paragraph deals with clothing and footwear and leisure and education, and just points out the key features. So definitely not every single figure and every single country's details, but the important ones. So meanwhile, Italians spend 9% of their money on fashion, and then a comparison to the other countries. And leisure and education, Turks account for the largest figure with 4.35. So you do need to pick and choose your data and your information when dealing with the table. There's too much there to include everything. So have I presented and highlighted each key feature? Yes. Have I used data? Yes. You can see my percentages throughout the key features paragraphs, and everything has been reported accurately. So be careful here, don't mention dollars, for instance, that would be inaccurate. We're only dealing with percentage. Coherence and cohesion is next. This is all about linking. Is the information organized logically? So this is where that separation into your key features can be important. The examiner can see that I've thought about it. I haven't just gone from left to right with no clear intention. I've grouped the highest performing element, is that the right word? Food, drink, and tobacco, which have the highest figures, is 1 paragraph. Everything else is in the other paragraph. So yes, it's logically organized. I've of course used my 4 paragraphs as always, and a range of linking devices. Here are some of them, though in terms of while, looking in more detail, and meanwhile, which, again, although, again. Plenty of variety and everything is used correctly. On to vocab, range of vocab. So I've highlighted here some of the different ways that I've referred to those categories, those 3 categories, rather than repeat exactly the same words over and over. I've got things like product groups, food, drink, and tobacco, clothing and footwear, leisure and education, food/drink/tobacco, fashion instead of clothing and footwear, clothes and shoes, leisure and education. So I'm trying to show a little bit of variety in my vocab there. Is everything accurate? Is my spelling correct? Of course it is. Grammatical range and accuracy, demonstrating a wide range of structures. This is always in my mind while I'm writing. And some of the things I've included are superlatives, comparatives and superlatives like these. The highest proportion, the highest figure, the biggest spenders, the largest proportion, much lower, more than the lowest, much lower, the largest. So when you're dealing with a snapshot, a static graph, you're going to need comparatives and superlatives. Subordination, complex sentences. Words like though, while, and although create subordinate clauses. Very important factor if you want to score above 4 in grammatical range. So some other complex structures in addition to those: though, while, which, and although. Relative clauses, subordinating conjunctions create complex structures. Accuracy, it's perfect. So save that 2 minutes at the end of your task to check your own work using this checklist. Once again, here's our method. Analyze and plan, 3 minutes. Follow the structure, keep the criteria in your mind, write for 15 minutes, 2 minutes at the end, edit carefully. Now it's over to you, time to practice writing about tables.